Hello students, welcome back. This is Accounting 2402, Principles of Managerial Accounting. In this lecture we are going to be covering Chapter 18, which deals with activity-based costing. I hope all of you are doing great. You're staying up to date with all of your assignment deadlines. Just remember that if you have any questions at any point in time, do not hesitate to contact me. I'm here to provide you with any guidance, assistance as I can. It is very important that we read the chapter. I know I sound like a broken record, but reading is fundamental in this course. That way you become familiar with the content in the chapter. I do not cover the content in the lecture. My lectures are more problem-solving oriented. So I leave it for the students to read the material, and then we apply what was learned in the chapter to actual scenarios or problems. Okay, so this particular chapter 18, deals with 3 cost allocation methods that are used for determining product costs. Okay, and these 3 methods that are covered in the chapter include the single plant-wide factory overhead rate, the multiple production department rate method, and the activity-based costing method. Okay, so the first cost allocation method that's explained is a single plant-wide factory overhead rate that can be used to allocate all plant overhead to all products. Okay, the single plant-wide factory overhead rate is very simple to use and apply, but because of its basic structure, it can lead to product cost distortions. Okay. The second cost allocation method that is covered is the multiple production department factory overhead, which requires the identification of the factory overhead by each production department. Okay? By using the multiple production department factory overhead rate, we are able to obtain results with greater accuracy than using the single plant-wide factory overhead rate. Okay? And last but not least, we also have the activity-based costing, which requires factory overhead to be budgeted to activities. Okay? The budgeted activity costs are allocated to products by multiplying activity rates by the activity-based quantity consumed for each product. Okay? The activity-based costing is more accurate when products consume activities in proportions unrelated to plant-wide or departmental allocation basis. So, those are the main focus of this chapter, the 3 different cost allocation methods. I am going to be going over 3 problems that you're going to be seeing in your homework. One of the problems that I'm going to be going over, which is problem 18.5, that's the last problem that I'm going to be going over. That is a very important problem because you're going to see that on your test. Okay, so I'm going to go over it. That way you have study material to base yourself on. To be able to not only complete your homework, but be very prepared for when you complete your exam. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the basic exercise. This is basic exercise 18.2. Okay, so this exercise, this basic exercise deals with multiple production department factory overhead rates. Okay, so it says the total factory overhead for Bartlett Marine Company is budgeted for the year at $600,000 divided into 2 departments. We have the fabrication department at $420,000 and the assembly department at $180,000. So this is very important information. This is what my budget for the 2 different departments is, okay, related to overhead. Okay. So it says Bartlett Marine manufactures 2 types of boats, speedboats and bass boats. Okay, so the speedboats required 8 direct labor hours in fabrication and 4 direct labor hours in assembly. Okay, the bass boat requires 4 direct labor hours in fabrication and 8 direct labor hours in assembly. Each product is budgeted for 250 units. So we're going to be making 250 units of the speedboat and 250 units of the bass boat. Okay, that is how many boats we're going to produce for each type of product. Okay, now they're asking you to determine the total number of budgeted direct labor hours for the year in each department. And remember, we have 2 departments. We have the fabrication and the assembly. The departmental factory overhead rates for both departments, and the factory overhead allocated per unit for each product using the department factory overhead allocation rates. Okay, so let's start with letter A. Okay, letter A states what is the total number of budgeted direct labor hours for the year in the department? Okay, so to be able to do that, we need to figure out how many hours does it take me to manufacture a speedboat and a bass boat. Okay, so in this problem, it says here that we need, for the speedboat, we need 8 direct labor hours right there, 8 direct labor hours in fabrication, and then 4 direct labor hours. Okay, we need 4 hours in assembly. Okay, so that's 8 plus 4, that's 12 hours. So it's going to take us 12 hours to make a speedboat. Then the other one is the bass boat, and it requires 4 hours. Okay, it requires 4 direct labor hours in fabrication and 8 direct labor hours. 8 direct labor hours in assembly. Okay, so at the end of the day, both boats take 12 hours to manufacture. It's just that the speedboat takes 8 hours in fabrication, while the bass boat takes 4 hours in fabrication, and the speedboat takes 4 hours in assembly, while the bass boat takes 8 hours in assembly. Okay, but in total, 8 plus 4 is 12 for each of the boats. Okay, it's going to take us 12 hours to manufacture, whether it be a speedboat or a bass boat. Okay, now that we know that it's going to take us 12 hours to manufacture each type of boat, we can calculate our number of budgeted direct labor hours for each year in the department. Okay, so how are we going to get that? Well, we know that we're going to fabricate 250 units. Okay, and this should be, they're asking us to do it for each boat. So let me see. So no, that is correct. Okay, so they're asking us to calculate the number of budgeted total direct labor hours for the year in the department. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we're going to start off by calculating, let me put a parenthesis, how many hours is it going to take us to manufacture this boat in the fabrication department. Okay, so I know that I'm going to be manufacturing 250 speedboats. Okay, let me put speedboats, that way we can be clear what boat we're doing. Okay, so we have 250 speedboats, and for the speedboats, let's look over here. The speedboats required 8 direct labor hours in fabrication. So I'm going to multiply it by 8 direct labor hours. Okay, and then I'm going to add, I know I'm going to fabricate 250 bass boats. And then for my bass boats, it takes me 4 direct labor hours in fabrication. Okay, and then we can figure out what my total number of hours in the fabrication department is going to be. Okay, so let's pull up our calculator. Okay, so 250 boats for the speedboats times 8 hours to make each speedboat, that's going to be $2,000. So I'm going to write that down. Okay, so that's $2,000, 2,000 hours, I'm sorry. And then for my bass boats, it's 250 bass boats that I'm producing, and in the fabrication department, it's 4 direct labor hours that it takes. Okay, so that's 1,000 hours. Okay, so 2,000 plus 1,000, 2,000 from the speedboats plus 1,000 from the bass boats, that gives me 3,000 direct labor hours. Okay, direct labor hours, there we go. Okay, so to fabricate the 250 boats of each category, I'm going to need 3,000 direct labor hours. Okay, now in the assembly department, okay, we're also going to assemble 250 speedboats. Okay, but how many hours does it take to manufacture my speedboats in the assembly department? Okay, let me move this up a little. What is this? Okay, so I don't know why it moved, but there we are. Okay. Okay. Get rid of this. Okay. So, okay. So, 250 speedboats, and then for the speedboats, it requires 4 direct labor hours in assembly. 4 direct labor hours in assembly. So I'm going to multiply that by 4 direct labor hours. Okay. Then I'm going to add my 250 bass boats. Okay. And on the bass boats, it takes 8 direct labor hours in assembly. 8 direct labor hours in assembly. Okay, so we're going to multiply it by 8 direct labor hours. Okay, so I'm going to get my calculator out again, and let's multiply. Let's see what we get. Okay, so 250 speedboats times 4, that gives me 1,000 hours. Make sure you write that down. Okay, and then 250 bass boats times 8 hours in assembly, that's 2,000. So 2,000 plus 1,000, that gives me 3,000 direct labor hours. Okay, so I'm going to spend 3,000 direct labor hours in fabrication, and I'm going to spend 3,000 direct labor hours in assembly to manufacture 250 speedboats and 250 bass boats. That is requirement A. Now, requirement B. Determine the departmental factory overhead rates for both departments. Okay, so we have to determine the factory overhead rates for both departments. Okay, so it says here at the very beginning, okay, that the total factory overhead budgeted is $600,000 for both departments. Okay, fabrication is $420,000 and assembly is $180,000. So what we're trying to figure out is how are we going to allocate these costs over to our product, whether it be our speedboat or a bass boat. Okay, so I know that on the fabrication department, we've budgeted for $420,000 in total factory overhead for that department. Okay, so I'm going to get the $420,000, and I am going to divide that by the number of direct labor hours that we anticipate having, which we calculated up here. The fabrication is 3,000 direct labor hours. Okay. Okay. And let's see what that gives us. So that will be 420,000 divided by 3,000. That's going to give me $140 per direct labor hour. So that means that for every hour that I spent fabricating, whatever product, I am going to be charging $140. Okay. For the assembly department, my factory overhead budgeted is $180,000. I'm going to divide that by my assembly is 3,000 direct labor hours. And let's see what we get. So that will be 180,000 divided by 3,000 direct labor hours. That's going to give me $60 per direct labor hour. So now we've got something to work with here. Okay. Now I know that for every hour that my product is in the fabrication department, I'm going to charge $140. For every hour that it's in the assembly department, I'm going to charge $60. Okay. Now, letter C. The factory overhead allocated per unit for each product using the department factory overhead allocation rates. So we have to determine the factory overhead allocated per unit for each product. Okay, so now we're trying to figure out how much am I going to allocate in overhead, factory overhead, to the speedboat and to the bass boat. Okay, so I'm going to start here on the speedboat with the fabrication department. Okay. So, for the fabrication, I'm just going to put fabrication. We know what we're talking about here, okay? So, for fabrication, I know that I need, for the fabrication, it says here, the speedboat requires 8 direct labor hours in fabrication. So, that would be 8 direct labor hours. And I'm going to multiply that, okay? by every hour that we're spending in fabrication, it's going to cost $140. Okay. So now I'm going to get my 8 hours times my $140. That's going to give me $1,120. Okay, that's for fabrication. Now for assembly. Okay, for assembly, when I'm making a speedboat, I'm going to have 4 hours in the assembly department. So it's going to be 4 direct labor hours times, okay, and my assembly rate is $60. Okay, so let's see what that gives us. 4 hours times 60, that gives me $240. Okay, so now I can get my total. Okay, so for every speedboat that I manufacture, I'm going to charge $1,360 in factory overhead. Okay, that's going to be 8 hours of fabrication, 4 hours of assembly. Okay, so we're going to charge $1,360 to the speedboat for my factory overhead. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for the bass boat. We're going to do the fabrication, and for the bass boat, it required 4 hours in fabrication, so 4 direct labor hours times, and on fabrication, my fabrication rate is $140. And I forgot to put right there. Okay, so what do we get? We get 4 hours times 140. That gives me $560. Now we're going to do the assembly. Okay, and for the assembly, for the bass boat, there are 8 hours in the assembly department. So we have 8 direct labor hours times my rate for assembly is $60. Okay, so then that's going to be 8 times 60. That'll be $480. Okay, so that is going to give me $1,040. Okay, so now the first thing we did was determine how many direct labor hours will it take us to manufacture the speedboats and the bass boats in the 2 different departments, fabrication and assembly. So to make the 250 speedboats, we're going to spend 3,000 direct labor hours in fabrication, 3,000 direct labor hours in assembly. Okay, now once we figure this out, we can calculate our rates, okay, the department overhead rates. So based on the factory overhead allocated to each department, we get the total budgeted factory overhead, and we divide by the number of hours that we calculated in letter A. Okay, and then we get the different department factory overhead rates. So now at part B, I know that for every hour that we have that product, that boat in the fabrication department, we're going to charge $140. And every hour that we have them in the assembly department, we're going to charge that particular product $60. Okay. Last but not least, they're asking us, how much are we going to allocate in factory overhead to manufacture a speedboat and a bass boat? This is per unit for every speedboat or for every bass boat. Okay, so we had to break them down between the 2 departments because every type of boat has a different number of hours that they spend in each department. Speedboat takes 8 hours in fabrication, 4 in assembly. The bass boat takes 4 hours in fabrication and 8 in assembly. So we calculate the number of hours that was provided in the problem times the rates calculated in letter B to get our cost of total factory overhead that is going to be budgeted or put into each of the boats. So for every speedboat that I manufacture, I'm going to allocate $1,360 of factory overhead. For every bass boat that we manufacture, we're going to allocate $1,040 of factory overhead. Okay, so it's step by step. Okay, remember, you get one step incorrect, then everything else will be wrong because we're basing that information from letter A, and then the information in letter B is coming, whatever you do in B is coming from A, whatever you do in C is coming from B. So it's, you have to make sure that you get all of your numbers correct so you can be able to do all of your calculations. Okay. Factory overhead is a long word, and for purposes of not typing out so much, I will be abbreviating factory overhead with FOH. Okay, that's just a side note here. If you see FOH, it means factory overhead. Okay, so that was the first problem that we were going to work on. The second problem that we're going to work on is on an exercise. This is exercise 18.5. Okay. And it is very long. Okay. Sometimes students become intimidated by the length of the problem, all of the information presented, that they give up before even starting. Okay. Yes, there are long problems, but they're not complicated. It's just a matter of understanding what is being asked and organizing your problem accordingly. Okay, so this problem deals with multiple production department factory overhead rate methods. Okay, so it reads, Handy Leather Incorporated produces 3 sizes of sports gloves: small, medium, and large. A glove pattern is first stenciled onto leather in the pattern department. The stenciled patterns are then sent to the cut and sew department, where the gloves is cut and sewed together. Handy Leather uses the multiple production department factory overhead rate method for allocating factory overhead costs. Its factory overhead costs were budgeted as follows. So we have the pattern department overhead at $294,000. We have the cut and sew department overhead at $560,000. The total is $854,000. The direct labor estimated for each production department was as follows. The pattern department, 42,000 direct labor hours. The cut and sew department, 56,000 direct labor hours. The total is 98,000 direct labor hours. Direct labor hours are used to allocate the production department overhead to the products. The direct labor hours per unit for each product for each production department were obtained from the engineering records as follows. Okay, and then down here they give you how many hours. This is 0.30 hours, 0.40 hours, 0.70 hours. How many hours or fractions of an hour do we spend to manufacture a small glove, a medium glove, or a large glove in each of the departments, whether it be a pattern department or the cut and sew department? Okay. Now, we're going to go, there's 2 requirements. We're going to start off with letter A, and then we'll proceed to letter B. Letter A states, determine the 2 production department factory overhead rates. Okay, so we have to calculate the department factory overhead rates. Okay, so to do that, we're going to start off with the total factory overhead for each of the departments. Okay, and let me go ahead and highlight. That information was provided to you right there. Okay. So, according to the problem, they've budgeted $294,000 for the pattern department. This is for the overhead, and $560,000 for the cut and sew department. So I'm going to put that there. $294,000, and for the cut and sew, it's $560,000. That's going to be my starting point, my factory overhead. Okay. Now, we're going to divide by the number of direct labor hours that we're anticipating investing into it. Okay, so the direct labor hours were also provided down here. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward because they've given you all of the information that you need. So I've got 42,000 direct labor hours for my pattern department, and I've got 56,000 hours for my this is direct labor hours, okay, for my cut and sew department. So now that I've got my factory overhead and my direct labor hours, we can just divide. So it'll be the 294,000 divided by the 42,000 direct labor hours. That's going to give me $7 per direct labor hour. So for every hour that we have this product, which are gloves, into the pattern department, we're going to charge $7. Okay, we're going to do the same thing over here for the cut and sew. 560 divided by 56,000. That's going to give me $10. So for every hour in the cut and sew department, we're going to charge that product $10. That is requirement A, calculating your department overhead rate. Okay. Now, letter B. Use the 2 production department factory overheads, which we just calculated in letter A, okay, to determine the factory overhead per unit for each product. So if we're making 1 glove, 1 small glove, 1 medium glove, or 1 large glove, how much are we going to allocate? Okay, So let's start off with the small glove. Okay, so we're going to do the small glove, and we're going to break down the cost between the two departments, which is the pattern and the cut and sew. Okay, so let's start off with the pattern department. Where am I going to get this information? Okay, we're going to get that information. We're focused on the small glove. Okay. Okay, the small glove is this color. Okay. Okay, so we're looking at the small glove data. Okay, right there, small glove. So we're going to look at the pattern department. To make a small glove, they spend 0.30 minutes on the pattern department. So we're going to do 0.30, okay, direct labor hours. And we're going to multiply that by what is my cost for my pattern department, my overhead rate for the pattern department. That is $7, okay. So we're going to multiply by $7, okay. So it takes me 0.30 direct labor hours to manufacture times $7 an hour. That means that I'm going to spend, or I'm going to allocate $2.10 of overhead for the pattern department. Okay. For the cut and sew department, it's 0.40 direct labor hours. And my rate for the cut and sew department is $10. Okay. Okay. And then that's going to give us 0.40 times $10. That's going to give me $4. So my total factory overhead per the small glove for both departments is $6.10. Okay. We're going to apply the same logistics to the medium and the large glove. Okay. Now for the medium glove, we are going to go ahead and we're going to use the information over here. Okay, medium glove. Okay, and the medium glove is color green. So we're going to do that just so we can color coordinate. Okay, so medium glove goes right there. Okay, so we're going to start off with the pattern department. For the medium glove, we spend 0.20 direct labor hours. Okay, and the pattern department overhead rate is $7. Okay, so we're going to do the 0.20 times the $7. That's going to give me $1.40. Now for the cut and sew department, it's 0.55 direct labor hours. And my rate for the cut and sew department is $10. Okay, so that's going to be 0.55 times 10. That's going to be $5.50. Okay, now I can get my total factory overhead per the medium glove, and we add the amount that you calculated for the pattern and the cut and sew, and that gives you $6.90. So the total factory overhead per medium glove is $6.90. Okay. Last but not least, we're going to do the large glove. Okay, and this is where we're getting the large glove information. And let me just here we go. So this is the large glove right here. For the pattern department, we have 0.45 direct labor hours times my pattern rate is $7. Okay, so then that's going to be 0.45 times 7, $3.15. Now for my cut and sew department, that's 0.70 direct labor hours. And then we're going to multiply it by my rate of $10. Okay. And that's going to be 0.70 times 10. That's going to be $7. And then we're going to add them together. And then that's going to give me $10.15. So my total factory overhead per large glove is $10.15. So now we know how much factory overhead we are going to allocate per small glove, medium glove, and large glove. Okay, so for every small glove that we manufacture, we're going to allocate $6.10 of factory overhead. For every medium glove that we manufacture, we're going to allocate $6.90 for overhead. And for every large glove that we manufacture, we're going to allocate $10.15 for factory overhead. Okay, so that is the calculations for exercise 18.5. Not difficult. It's just a matter of identifying what information you're going to use where. Okay? And the key here is getting your departmental overhead rate correctly, because if you notice, we're using these two rates down here. Okay? And then once we get these rates, you just multiply the rates times the number of hours, or the percentage of the hours that we're going to expend for each of the types of gloves in each of the departments to get our factory overhead for that specific product. Okay? So that is the second problem that we're going to be working on your homework, or one of the problems that you're going to have on your homework. Now, the last problem that you're going to see on your homework is going to be on your test. Okay? You're going to find something similar to this on your exam. Please make sure that you pay extra attention. If you have any questions after you listen to the lecture and attempt your homework, please do not hesitate to contact me. Okay? So, this problem deals with allocating selling and admin expenses using the activity-based costing method. Okay? So it says, Arctic Air manufactures cooling units for commercial buildings. The price and cost of goods for each are as follows. Okay, so the price is $60,000 per unit. So every cooling unit that we sell, we're going to sell it for $60,000. It cost us $28,000 to manufacture the product. So we're making a gross profit of $32,000 per unit, which is pretty good. Okay. Now, in addition, the company incurs selling and admin expenses of $226,250. That's a lot. Okay? The company wishes to assign these costs to the three major customers, which include Go Industries, Brin Incorporated, and the Martin Group. Now, these expenses are related to three major non-manufacturing activities: customer service, project bidding, and engineering support. The engineering support is in the form of engineering changes that are placed by the customer to change the design of a product. Okay? The budgeted activity cost and activity basis associated with these activities are as follows. Okay? So, they give you the activity, the customer service, project bidding, and engineering support, the budgeted activity cost for each, and then the activity base, which is for customer service, is the number of service requests. For the project bidding is the number of bids. And for engineering support, the number of customer design changes. Okay? So, activity-based usage and unit volume information for the three customers is as follows. And then they give you the three customers, Go, Brin, and the Martin Group, and the different activity bases. Okay? Now, we have three requirements. Let's start off with the first one. Okay? It says, determine the activity rates for each of the three non-manufacturing activity pools. Determine the activity rates for each of the three non-manufacturing activity pools. Okay? So, here we go. And we're gonna do the same thing that we did in the last problem. We've got our three different activities: customer service, project bidding, and engineering support. So we're going to get the activity cost. Okay? So the activity cost was provided to you right here. Okay? That is our activity cost. Okay? So for my customer service, it's $31,500. For my project bidding, it's $74,000. And for my engineering support is $127.50. Okay. Now we're going to divide by the activity base. Okay. How many do we have of each? Okay. Well, here at the bottom we have the breakdown by company, and then we have the total. So this is the total that we're going to be using right there. Okay. So I've got 180 for service request, 185 for the number of bids, and 161 for the custom design changes. Okay, so we're going to do 180, we're going to do 185, and we're going to do 161. So those numbers are coming from right here. Okay, and once we've got that, we're going to divide. Okay, We're going to divide the activity cost divided by the activity base to give you the activity rate. Okay, so 31,500 divided by 180. We're going to get the 74,000 divided by 185. And we're going to get the 127.50 divided by 161. Okay. Let me get this right here. So, I'm going to charge $175 per customer service, $400 for every project bidding, and $750 per every engineering support. Okay? So that is requirement 1. Okay? Okay. Now, that was pretty straightforward. Now, requirement 2. Determine the activity costs allocated to the 3 customers using the activity rates in 1. So using the activity rates that we just calculated, now we have to determine the activity costs to the 3 customers. Okay? So I've got here my 3 customers. Let me highlight this, that way we know the different. We've got Go, we've got Bryn, and we've got the Martin Group. Okay? So let's start with our customer service. Okay? So here I'm going to have my activity. Okay? And then I'm going to have my activity rate. And then here I'm going to have my activity costs. Okay? That way we know what we're doing. Okay, so for the activity for Go, we're going to be looking down here, and we're doing Go. Okay, right here. Here we go. So for Go, we have 36 service requests. Okay, for customer service, so we've got 36. Okay, for project bidding, we have 50. And for engineering support, we have 18. Okay, I'm getting this from right here. Okay, I'm going to multiply it. Okay, let me insert a little row right here. Okay, I'm going to multiply that. Okay, by my activity rate. Okay, my activity rate for my customer service is 175. For my project bidding is 400, and for my engineering support is 750. Okay, and then I'm going to insert here another row, that way we have it nicely formatted and you can see what I'm doing. Okay, and then that's going to equal your activity costs. Okay, so you're going to get the 36 customer service requests that you had times the activity rate, which we calculated at 175. That will give me 6,300. We're going to get the 50 project bids times 400, which is we calculated here. That'll give me 20,000. And we're going to get the 18 customer service design changes, okay, times 750. And that's going to give me, oh, I selected the wrong link right here, times 750. And that'll give me 13,500. Okay. Now I can get my total manufacturing cost for Go Industries that I'm going to charge based on the different activities that we had with them. Okay, so we're going to add those together, and that's going to give me $39,800. That's the total manufacturing activity cost that we're going to charge Go Industries for selling and admin expenses. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for for Bryn. Okay, let me now for Bryn, we're going to get this information right here. Okay. Okay, let me just, okay, here we go. So for Bryn, we're going to get this information right there. Okay, so we have customer service 28, project bidding 40, and 35 engineering support. Okay, and we're going to multiply that. Why did I put equals? Okay. Oh, sorry. Let me just fix this real quick. I don't know. I thought I had entered. There we go. Okay. So that's how it's going to look. So we have 28, 40, and 35. Okay. Now we're going to get the rates once again that we calculated in requirement 1. And then we just multiply them. The 28 times the 175. The 40 times the 400. So you're multiplying your rates times your actual activity, the number of activities that you had per product, per customer. Okay. So now we can get the total that we're going to assign to Brin Company. Okay. So what we're trying to do here is allocating those costs that we're incurring for selling and admin expenses, and they've made the decision they're going to pass those costs down to the 3 largest customers that they have, which are Go, Brin, and Martin. So this is how we're going to calculate how we're going to allocate those $226,250 to the 3 different customers based on their activity base. Okay. So for the Brin Incorporated, we have total non-manufacturing activity costs that we're gonna charge of $47,150. Okay. The last group that we have is the Martin group. Okay. And that information, we're going to get it from right here. Okay. And let me just make this a little bit thicker. There we go. So the Martin group is going to go right here. Okay. So we have 116 customer service, 95 bids, and 108 engineering support. Okay. So we're going to multiply it times our activity rates, which we have up here of 175, 400, and 750. Okay. Okay, now we can multiply them, and let's see what we get. Okay, so we're going to multiply the $95 times the 400, and we're going to multiply the 108 times the 750, and then we can add those together so we can get the non-manufacturing activity costs that we're going to assign to the Martin group. That's going to be $139,300. Okay, so those are my activity per customer that we're going to allocate. Okay. Okay, there we go. That is requirement number 2. Now requirement number 3, they're asking us to construct a customer profitability report for the 3 customers dated for the year ended December the 31st using the activity costs in number 2. So whatever you did in number 2 will be used in number 3. Okay. That's why in accounting you cannot make mistakes. Remember, whatever you calculated in 1 was used in 2. Whatever we use in 2, we're going to use in 3. If any of these numbers are wrong, then everything else would be wrong. Okay? So they're asking us to construct the profitability report for the 3 customers. The report should disclose the gross profit and the operating income associated with each customer. Okay? So we're going to start off by calculating, or we're always going to start off whenever we're doing a customer profitability report, we always start off with our revenues. Okay. Okay. So were the revenues given to us? Okay. Let's see. No, the revenues were not given to us, but they did tell us that we're selling each product at $60,000. Okay. So we know that we sell each product at $60,000. Now down here, they also told you how many did you sell of each product, the unit volume. Okay, this is how many you sold. Okay, So they've given you the amount of units that you sold to Go, to Bryn, and to Martin. You sold 30, 16, and 4. Okay? So I know that I sell each of those units at 60,000, and I've got my quantities that I sold. We can calculate our revenues. Okay? Now I'm going to do my little calculation here on the side. Okay? So for my revenues. Okay? So my revenues for Go. Okay? It's going to be, I know that I sell each AC unit at 60,000, and for Go, I sold 30 units, okay? So that's going to give me, let me get my calculator, 60,000 times 30 units. That's going to give me $1.8 million, $1,800,000, okay? So that's for Go. We're going to do the same thing for Bryn, okay? And then I'm just going to do the calculations, and then I'll just transfer it over, okay? So I know that I sell each unit at $60,000. Now Bryn purchased 16 units, okay? And then I can get my calculator. That'll be 60,000 times 16. That'll be $96,000, okay? No, $960,000. I'm sorry, I forgot a zero. $960,000. So that'll be $960,000. Okay. And then for the Martin Group, okay, I know that I sell my units at 60,000. How many units did I sell to the Martin Group? Only 4. So let's get our calculator. 60, 1, 2, 3 times 4. That's going to give me $240,000. Okay? So, to calculate your revenues, how much do you sell your product for? $60,000 times how many units did you sell? That was provided to you right there, the unit volume, and that will give you your revenues. So now that I've got that, I can just insert it over here. $1,800,000 for Bryn. It was 960, and for the Martin Group, 240,000. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we start with our revenues. How much money did you make from the sales? Well, I made this amount. Now we have to deduct our cost of goods sold. How much do we have to spend to manufacture these AC units? Okay, well, down here, I'm going to do my calculations for cost of goods sold. Okay, that way you have how I came up with these numbers that you're entering over here. Okay, now the cost of goods sold, it says that it cost us $28,000 to manufacture each cooling unit. Okay, so I know how much I spent. I spent $28,000 per unit. Okay, and I know how many units I sold. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same calculation for Go. But this time we're doing cost, and that's 28,000 times the 30 units. And then that's going to give me $840,000. Okay, I'm going to spend $840,000 to manufacture the goods for Go. For Bryn, it's going to be 28,000 times, I've got 16 units. And then that's going to give me 28 times 16. That's going to give me $448,000. And then for the Martin, okay, it's going to be the 28,000. 28,000 times the 4 units. Okay, and then that's going to give me 28, 1, 2, 3 times 4, $112,000. So now I've got my cost of goods sold for each. Now, because this is my cost of goods sold, these are going to be in deduction, in parentheses, because I'm subtracting them, okay? So I'm going to have negative 840 because this is a cost, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to deduct. Okay, so that's 840. That's going to be 448, and that's going to be 112. So that is how much money I spent to manufacture my cooling units. That is how much I sold them for. Now I can calculate my gross profit. And your gross profit is equal to your revenues minus your expenses. Okay, so 1,800,000 minus 840 will give you 960. Okay, you do the same thing for the rest. So the 240 minus the 112 gives you 128. The 960 minus the 448 gives you 512. Okay, now we have our selling and admin activities. These are the ones that we're going to allocate to the 3 customers. Okay, and we've got 3 different types of activities. We've got customer service, we've got project bidding, and we've got engineering support. Okay, and then we can get our total. Total selling and admin activities. Okay, here we go. So that's the breakout. Okay, now we've already done all of these calculations in requirement 2. So it's just a matter of bringing those numbers down. Okay, so my customer service, and we're looking at Go. Okay, so for Go, I'm going to go to my customer service calculation up here for Go, and I have customer service, and my total was $6,300. So I'm going to bring that there. For project bidding for Go, I'm going to go up here, project bidding, 20,000. For engineering support, I'm going to go up here, engineering support for Go, 13,500. Okay, my total for Go is 39,800. Okay, now because these are all expenses, all of these have to have a minus sign or a parentheses. Okay, that way we know that these are deductions. Okay, this is money that we're losing because we had to have all of these project biddings, customer service, so on and so forth. Okay, so that is what we did. All I did was transfer this information right here. Okay, we transferred that information to the bottom. Okay, so that is going down here. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for Bryn. Okay, we're going to bring in these numbers down here. Okay, so those numbers right here are going to be flowing into that second part of your report. So these numbers are going to be going over here. Okay, so it'll be 4,900. Okay, 16,000, 26,250. So you see it's a piece of cake once you do those calculations. Okay, and 47,150. Okay, and then last but not least, we're going to bring in the numbers from the Martin Group. Okay, and we're going to pick up these numbers down here. So if you see, it's not difficult, it's just a little bit time consuming. And of course, these numbers have to be right, because if not, well, your report's going to be wrong. Okay, so we're going to bring in those numbers right down there. So I'm just copying and pasting. Okay. Okay, so I've got all of these numbers, and all of these numbers were obtained from up here, from requirement 2. Okay. So now we've got your total selling and admin per activity per customer. Okay. So now we know how much we're going to allocate for customer service, for project bidding, and for engineering support for Go, Bryn, and the Martin Group. Okay. Now we can calculate our operating income or loss. Okay. Let me just go ahead and underline this. There we go. Okay. So to calculate your operating income or loss, you're going to get your gross profit, okay, minus your total selling and admin activities. Okay. So you're going to be your gross profit minus your total selling and admin activities. Okay. That's going to give you those numbers. Okay. So for Go Industries, we are making operating income of $920,200. For Brin, $464,850. And the Martin Group, we have a loss of $11,300. Okay. Let me get rid of that. Okay. So those are my operating income for the 3 customers. Okay, right there. Now, this is the customer profitability report. This is very important that you know how to do. Okay. The calculations for your revenue and your cost of goods sold are right there. That way you know how to calculate. Oh, sorry about that. Insert shapes right here. So that is coming from there. That way you know that these are my calculations of how we got each of these numbers. Your selling and admin, this is coming from requirement 2, your activity cost per customer. Okay. And then to get your operating income or loss, it's just your gross profit minus your total selling and admin expenses. Okay. So let me put a little note here. Operating income or loss is equal to your gross profit minus your total selling and admin activities. Okay. So that is how you calculate it. Now, requirement 4. Provide recommendations to management based on the profitability reports in number 3. Okay. So now you have your report here. Go gives you $920,200 in income. He's the one that gives you the highest operating income. Then we've got Brin with $464,850. And then Martin Group gives us a loss. Okay. So we can say that the Martin Group is unprofitable, while the other two customers have acceptable margins. Okay. So, why does the Martin Group give me a loss? Okay. Well, the Martin Group requires many customer service, project bidding, and design activity changes. Look at the cost in comparison to the others, okay? For the Martin Group, okay, these two are $6,000, $4,000, $20,000, $20,000, $16,000, $38,000, almost doubling. $13,000, $26,000, $81,000. Okay, so the Martin Group requires a lot of customer service, a lot of project bidding, and a lot of engineering support. Okay, these costs are killing it for the Martin Group. Okay. Okay, so what do we recommend? Okay, I'm not going to give you a whole bunch of recommendations. I'm going to let you do that critical thinking component. My focus was you know how to do the numbers, okay? So, what are they asking us to do? Recommendations to management. Okay, so what do we recommend management does with basically the Martin Group? They're the only ones that are not doing very well, okay? So, management can encourage the Martin Group to reduce the amount of design changes and customer service requests. The design changes. So remember, design changes when they're asking them to like make modifications to the existing AC unit. So they're not getting like a prefab kind of a unit. They're wanting specifics done to it, changing it, and then for every change it costs money. Okay. So the design changes are probably driving the need for higher customer service requests. This is a behavior that the Martin Group needs to work on. Okay, so the Martin Group needs to like organize themselves. Okay, we're going to be making these changes. Now, if you look at the Martin Group, guys, the Martin Group only bought 4 units. Okay, but they had 108 requests for changes to, the product. Okay, they had 116 service requests. Okay, 95 bids. Okay, so they're just, I guess in my opinion, looking at these numbers, they're not very organized. Or maybe they're requesting changes that they don't even know that they need, or maybe they don't understand what they're requesting. That's why all of these customer service requests have to occur later. So maybe have management sit down with the Martin Group and say, okay, what is it that you need from us? That way we can clarify, get a better understanding of what is it that you need, so we can provide you the service without having to have so much customer service or having so many engineering changes or so on and so forth. Okay. Or what I would recommend to management would be, charge a price for customer service and design changes separately. Okay, so that is unbundle the pricing of goods from the support services. This can be a good long-term solution, as well as help improve the bidding process. Okay. So there's a lot of recommendations you can make. I'm not going to go over this too much. I'm not going to give you 20 recommendations. But you know what? If I were management, I would say, you know what, customers, going forward, I'm going to charge a fixed amount. And of course, we would have to run the calculations of how much. But for every customer service call that we get, we're going to charge you X dollar amount. For every service request that you have, we're going to charge you X dollar. That way, you know what? They know, if I pick up the phone and I call them, it's going to be an extra fee added to my AC cooling unit, okay? So maybe that will prevent unnecessary phone calls, unnecessary changes, because it's going to ultimately impact the customer's bottom line as well, okay? They're going to have to pay more for this AC unit. Did they really need those changes? Are they imperative? Or can we work without them? Or, minimize the number of changes. You know what? And the other 2 companies, like I said, if you look at Go and Brin, they're doing steady. Yes, maybe they're using a little bit more than they could, but they're still providing the company, us, that we're selling these AC units with income. The one that's really out of proportion is the Martin Group. Okay. First of all, we're not generating much revenues from them. Second of all, our selling and admin costs are huge. Okay, so we are actually operating at a loss by dealing with this company, with the Martin Group. Or maybe, you know what, I'm just going to let go of the company. You know what, I'm not going to accept any more orders from the Martin Group. Why? Because, they're just, so many requests. It's costing me more money than what I'm actually making from my sales to them. Okay, so those are just things that you need to analyze, by looking at the information. It's part of accounting. Reading reports, reading information, making analysis, interpreting your findings, all of that is part of accounting. Okay, now this problem that I just went over, mainly the calculations, okay, for 1, 2, and 3, all of that, is very important. You need to be able to do it. I've included all of the calculations, where I got all of my numbers from. You will see this on your test. Okay, so please listen to the lecture. Attempt your homework problems. Remember, you have 2 tries to complete both your homework and your quizzes, and I keep the highest grade earned. Okay, so that is basically it. I want to wish you all a very good week, a very productive week. Organize your time. Make sure that you review your syllabus. That way you are aware of all of your assignment deadlines. Okay? And that is it for this lecture. Until next time. Thank you.